Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. I had a lovely evening myself. It was my weekly ink drawing club, and that's always a lot of fun for me to get out of the house and talk to other artists. But also I'm a really big advocate of working alongside other people. Even if you're not collaborating or talking to them the whole time, it really keeps you focused to just have someone there working in parallel. And, it'll stop you from getting distracted and really helps get you in the zone. If you've never tried it, I would really recommend this. And then on my walk home, it was snowing, and the snow at night just looks so gorgeous. It's really calming and comforting. So I'm going to pull a few cards from this deck that I've illustrated myself, and then I'm going to pull some tarot. All right, so let's figure out what is the situation that you need guidance on. Our first card, we have Mouse. Okay, we'll pull a few more cards. We have Map. Okay, one more card. And then we have Shield. Okay, so I get the sense that in this situation, you're definitely the mouse. And I think that the mouse is kind of emerging out of its hole, so then it's going to run back into its hole. And I think this really relates to this feeling of the shield of like, maybe there's something you're a little bit scared of or you're a little bit guarded about. And it really relates to something in the world where maybe you're looking at this huge map of the world and feeling a little bit intimidated by it. And then feeling like, you have to scurry out and then scurry back into your own little hole. But I think that you're starting to get the sense that maybe when you let your shield down a little bit, you can kind of get into this feeling of not having to scurry back into the hole, of really being in harmony with the world and being able to explore this whole map freely. Because, when you're really tied down to that one little comfort zone, right, you can only go so far before you retreat back into your comfort zone. But once you really get used to like feeling like you're part of the world, like your comfort zone no longer serves you, you can kind of go out and go anywhere you want. It just gives you so much more freedom because you can start moving in one direction really confidently without feeling like you have to run back to your comfort zone. You're just moving ahead, and it opens up so many new pathways and roads for you. All right, let's pull a little bit more tarot on this feeling of leaving your comfort zone and going into the world and being in harmony with the world. All right, so we have Strength. Okay, so this really relates to this feeling of fearlessness, right? It's the opposite of the mouse card, really. Is like you are someone who can actually really face difficulty, and maybe you've kind of been told like to stay small, to be scared, like the world is a scary place, the world is going to be cold, and the world is going to hurt you. But I get the sense you're starting to understand that because you know how to protect yourself with a shield, like maybe you've been practicing this in certain situations where like maybe it wasn't safe for you to really leave your comfort zone without actually like being maybe verbally attacked or that sort of thing. And so you learned to have this defense mechanism of the shield. But I think you're starting to realize that that has really strengthened your core sense of self because you've really protected it so much. And now you're able to let down this shield in a really methodical manner where you understand the situation where like, okay, it's time for me to open up now and not just have the shield up all the time. And that, really using that strength and using that confidence in myself is going to allow me to open up new doors and really harness this power that I have inside me. Because when you have the shield up all the time, the shield is for defense, right? And then to attack, you kind of have to alternate a little bit. Now it's time to put the weapons out. So I think you're starting to understand, like, you can't be on defense all the time. Sometimes you really have to put yourself out there and attack. See your target and attack. Like, go straight for the jugular. All right, let's pull another card. Okay, we have the Six of Wands here. All right, and this is kind of the sense of feeling like, you have the sense of community. And in a way, this is what's protecting you, right? Is maybe when you were more shielded and more in your comfort zone, you really felt alone. Like you're the only one who feels this way. You're the only one going through these things. You're the only one who has this sort of personality. And maybe it actually was the case that you were the only one, maybe growing up as a child or in certain environments that you were in as an adult where you really felt different and ostracized. But I think you're starting to realize as an adult now, you have this whole community of people who are just like you. And even if they're spread out a little bit, it's just a matter of attracting them in towards you by really displaying your full authentic self. And right, the thing is, if you always have your shield up, these people who could be your potential allies are never going to see that side of you. You need to let your shield down a little bit so you can attract these people. And I think it's really inspiring also. Like, this card really relates to a sense of leadership. That being that person who's willing to be bold and authentically yourself, like, it opens up to other people to be like, okay, this person is displaying these traits that I used to be kind of ashamed of or thought that I would be attacked for, but they're going out so proudly and just like being bold in themselves that I'm willing to rally behind them, support them, and also express my true self more. So in the sense, letting down your shield is like a really brave thing to do and can really inspire other people. And that's also what's going to lead to you having the allies that will make it so you don't have to be so guarded anymore, right? Because when you're around your people, there's just this understanding of like, we're all kind of going through the same thing, we're all feeling the same things. There's no need to be ashamed of what we're going through because we're all going through it together. All right, let's pull another card on this. The Queen of Swords. Okay, so I get the sense that you're someone who can definitely, be quite intelligent, but like honestly maybe almost be on the sidelines a little bit, where especially when you were more guarded and really had that shield up, you were kind of observing situations. Maybe you're the type of person who's always said like, I don't really like to participate so much. I prefer just to observe and listen to people and kind of, especially in a conversation, I just like to sit there and listen. And I think this is more like relating to like a little bit of a past energy, whereas moving into this more like Six of Wands energy is more like you have people who you can talk freely with. But I think in the past, when you were a little bit more guarded, you really had to use your discernment and just kind of like listen and make observations, which I think was really good because I think sometimes when you're engaged in a dynamic or in a conversation, you can kind of get lost in it because you're so taken and possessed by like, I need to argue my point, I need to assert myself, or I'm like reacting to what other people are saying, thinking about what I'm going to say. But when you take that time to sit back and observe a group dynamic from the outside, you really learn a lot about how people work, and like it makes it a lot easier to observe like, oh, that person is reacting to something that, really triggered them, or like they're projecting something into this conversation. And I think that this was really a great skill for you to have because it really helped you see like, where people are coming from when sometimes they could be a little bit more on attack, and starting to realize like, it doesn't necessarily always say something about me when people are criticizing me. It often says more about them. So I get the sense that this energy really has served you in the past, and moving into the future, you're going to still have that energy with you, except that now you don't always have to be observing all the time. Now you can participate, but put into practice all those lessons you learned in that time. All right, let's pull another card. All right, the Queen of Pentacles. So I get the sense that, especially with these allies that you've been attracting in the world, you're starting to really nurture certain projects, or maybe just like potential within yourself. Like, I'm specifically thinking of like maybe a creative vocation of like, a little bit more specific than just the general art, like more specific than visual art or music, but not quite as specific as just like one project. But it's kind of combining these goals that you have with your art form, and that's kind of like what's planting the seed, right? It's almost like the art form is the soil and the project is the flower that grows out of it, but having like a kind of more specific sense of like what you're trying to do with the art form. It's like that's like the water and the seed that will cause the project to grow. And I'm also sort of seeing like this feeling of like it's time to start, like it's time to hop to it. Like maybe in the past, like I said, you were really focused on watching, observing, and maybe this could extend to like things in your career too, is you're kind of seeing like, what are people in the community doing? What are these people in my field doing? But I think I'm getting the sense that like now is the time to start. Now that you've started amassing these allies around you, is like, it's time to use my connections, use the strength that I've acquired and confidence in myself through exercising the strength in displaying my true self. It's like now is the time that you can actually start your project and really just like, hop right to it. Don't postpone yourself anymore, because it's the season for you to be planting these things, right? And if you want the harvest to be good, right, you have to plant the seed. And I'm also getting the sense of like, in the seasons of your life, there's going to be a winter and there's going to be a spring. And I get the sense that like the winter is approaching for you maybe. And so now it's kind of like the time to really like get ready for that planting season, because if you miss it, then you're going to have to go around the whole cycle again and wait until go through another long cold winter. All right, let's pull a few more cards on maybe like a specific action that you should take. All right, so we have the Two of Pentacles here. And I feel like this is saying like there's some degree of like balance that you need to take in your next few actions. So maybe it's something where it's like it's not the most like bold, crazy move, like nothing that's beyond your means, right? Like certainly it's good to be ambitious, but you also have to have a sense of realism in that too. Of like, I'm not playing it small, I'm playing it accurate to what I can do. And, you know, maybe pushing myself a little bit, but also understanding that because I can do anything in this world, I should really kind of focus on, like, what is something I could reasonably do. Because sometimes if you set a goal that's just, like, above and beyond, it's almost like you're setting yourself up for disappointment because it's not something you could reasonably achieve. And like I mentioned with these seasons of your life, like, kind of thinking about the seasons, right? It's like, if you think about the span of a whole year, right, and, you know, cultivating your garden, you're not doing all that gardening work just in a couple months. It's like the whole year is the time to be engaging with that. And even in the winter, like maybe you're not planting, but maybe you're processing and storing the foods, or maybe you're studying the almanac for like what crops are going to be good for this next year. So at this, you know, point in your life, there's definitely things you could be thinking about and plans you could be putting in place. But also understanding that plans are something that need to be executed over a long period of time. And kind of having this understanding of like, you know, in the years of your life too, like maybe this idea that you have of something you really want to do might be something that is related to your 5-year plan more than your 1-year plan. And kind of just keeping yourself in check in that way of like setting reasonable goals, because when you meet your goal, you feel really accomplished. If you just have this one crazy goal, like let's say, you know, win the biggest award in your field, like you want to win an Oscar or perhaps an Eisner, that's not something you're going to be able to do in the next year. Just being realistic, if you're watching my YouTube videos, probably. Who knows though, maybe. I want that for you. But you're just kind of, and you don't have any other goals. It's just like, I want this one award. You're just not going to have that sense of satisfaction, because even if you're working really hard and you're accomplishing things, because you have your eye just so far ahead, it's going to be hard for you to really feel rewarded and confident in yourself. Whereas if you set like a smaller, more reasonable goal that you could genuinely achieve within the next year or within the next few months, like that will be very rewarding to you, because it's like, okay, I said I was going to do this and I did it. All right, let's pull another card that relates to maybe setting goals for yourself. Okay, so we have the Ten of Pentacles. Okay, this is a really good one. Okay, so I'm getting the sense that this is really meaning that in your career and in these projects you have planned, like there is success ahead for you. And again, it's like really relating to something in a community, in a marketplace, and interacting with people from all walks of life. Like, it's not going to just be something where you're interacting with your peers, because I think sometimes it's really easy to kind of see it as this competition. Like, okay, we are all entering the industry at the same time, so these are my competitors, and it's about being the best out of all of them, and then I'm going to come out on top and I'm going to win. But really, it's more about like working with your mentors who are established in the field, who are going to give you some great guidance and could even be collaborators on a project. Like, if you think about like these wonderful artists, it's like, I really want to work with this person. It's actually possible. You just have to, you know, prove to them and to yourself that you're ready for it. And then it goes the other way too, where it's like, you have to be mentoring the people who are younger than you, who are coming up, because those people are also going to be long-term collaborators and friends and supporters. And also because you're trying to nurture the strength of your industry, you want to be supporting that emerging young talent and really be there for them and be able to say like, you know, I was in your spot 3 years ago, and these are some of the things that I did to get here, and really stay motivated, stay confident, you know, maybe give them some shortcuts or just general reassurance, because we're all walking our own path. Really, there's no advice that's going to work for everyone, but it's really about having that reassurance of just like, it seems hard now. It seems like you're not confident in your skills, or that this industry is like a little bit impenetrable. But once you start working, you're gonna see that success is possible for you, and it's just a matter of like really being in harmony, not just with the world, not just with yourself, but with everyone that you're working with. Like, really having this feeling of goodwill towards the people in your industry is going to get you really far, because this competitive mindset is kind of a trickle down effect of this capitalist dogma that we're living under, of like, the person who works the hardest, who's the best, they come out on top, they have the most money. Whereas really, especially in the arts, it's honestly more like this feeling of just like everyone is nurturing each other, and as we all grow together, our abundance grows. And like, especially because this financial competitive mindset can actually work against the arts, and can like really push us into commercializing our work. To really be able to foster these relationships in the community of like encouraging people to work in their own way, at their own pace, is actually going to be a lot better for your own work and just for creative freedom as a whole. All right, I feel like this is looking good. Let's maybe pull a few more cards on like what the specific relationships you're going to want to nurture are. Okay, so we have fish. Okay, so I feel like there's maybe some sort of relationship where you want to work with someone, but you're not really sure how, or you just want to get closer to someone, where it's like, we're all busy people, we're always working. So it's like, how do I try and form a relationship with this person where, we can grow together and encourage each other? And I think the sense is like, you need to put the bait out there. Like, having a project or something to work on together is what's going to allow you to grow this relationship. Because, when you're working on a project together, especially for artists, this is one of the best ways to really get close, because there's this really feeling of like, your minds are working together. It's just this exchange of ideas. You're solving problems together. Like, that's one of the best ways to nurture a relationship. And honestly, when it comes to people in the arts who really have hustle, who are really going to be successful, they don't always have the time to just be sitting around and just like having another coffee date. I mean, this is fun, and you always get to talk, and like this exchange of ideas is wonderful. But sometimes it's like, I want to not only be nurturing this relationship, but also being able to put something out into the world together at the same time. So I think what this card is really saying is like, you need to maybe brainstorm some ideas of like, if this person is an ideal collaborator to me, what kind of project could we be working on together? Or if there's maybe a few people who I think would be good collaborators, like, could I start a club or a group where we could maybe meet at regular intervals, like once a week? And I think that this is what's really going to enable these relationships to grow over time. Because like I said, like, you really have to be thinking of these seasons of your life and like the years that are passing. It's like, and planting seeds. This relationship is not going to be something where you just shake someone's hand and it's like, okay, we're like locked in now. I mean, this could happen now and then, especially if you really have a strong connection with someone on a creative level. But I think more often than not, it's really about meeting someone and letting this relationship kind of grow, maybe without any sort of active push to be like, okay, we need to get closer now, but just sort of witnessing each other's growth, witnessing each other's, kind of creative ideas come through, and like growth as an artist. And then it's going to be like, okay, now's the right time. And we've already established this trust from knowing each other. And we've already established like this person is a hard worker. This person's really punctual, especially if it's this context of like, maybe you're meeting at a club every week. It's like, okay, they show up every week, they show up on time. Maybe sometimes they bring things to, maybe like little treats for the group. And it's like, okay, this is someone who's really kind, to someone who's really reliable. This is definitely someone I'd like to work on a project with. All right, let's pull another card on this topic. Judgment. Okay, so this kind of really relates a lot to what I'm saying. It's like, there's this feeling of like being able to witness people over time. Like I was saying with this Queen of Swords energy, is that you're really good at observing other people. And when it comes to forming strong relationships, this sense of observation is really important. And kind of like looking at people, not just from a personal thing of like, what could I get out of this relationship, or who is this person to me, but kind of taking this view of like, is this person really on the right path? Are they really working in service of virtue, in service of the greater good, in service of the creative community? And just like, are they someone who deserves my time? Because if someone is maybe, really caught up in these egotistical status games and really competitive in a bad way, like a little competition, healthy competition is good, but like maybe they tear other people down to make themselves feel better, right? This is not someone you're going to be wanting to work with, because it's honestly like, even if you think, okay, this is a really powerful person, but they got there by tearing other people down. Unfortunately, the case is that really there's going to be no friends in this game for them. They're going to tear you down too, even if you really supported them and even, worked on a project together where it's like you thought you were equal collaborators. If you didn't judge someone's character correctly, it could come out that they just really screwed you over, and it could really be a bit of a disaster, honestly. All right, let's pull another card on this topic. Alright, we've got the Five of Cups here. So this is someone who has maybe experienced some hardship. So like I was saying in this situation where maybe someone might have screwed you over in the sense of a collaboration, is like, maybe there was a collaboration with someone that didn't work out, where you really had high hopes for it, but it was just like things fell apart, or this wasn't a reliable person to be working with, and it's just a big disappointment for you, really. And you're kind of maybe caught in that of like, maybe feeling a little bit burned and like hesitant to work with other people again, and just kind of thinking, you know what, I have to be on my own from now on. Like, it just doesn't work. I can't work with other people. But if you look at this card, right, the figure standing on their own is looking at these cups that have fallen, but behind them are two more cups that are fully upright. So it's really the sense that don't focus so much on the bad situations or like situations that didn't work out, because there are going to be situations that are still viable and available to you. And you've learned from those situations in the past where things have gone sour, because you're able to discern people's virtue more easily now, because you kind of can look back and see what are the red flags in that collaboration where like, I should have just been a little bit more aware and known that maybe this person wasn't an ideal person to work with. Instead of like making it reflect on you and saying like, oh, I really am not good at judging people's character, or like, I made a mistake in the situation. Like, maybe this person just didn't show their true colors to you at first and it just didn't work out. But, you really have to have faith that there's people out there in the world who are like you, like-minded, equally virtuous, who are going to be wonderful collaborators. All right, so let's pull maybe a few more cards just on putting yourself out there in the world and really feeling confident. All right, antenna. So I feel like you're a very receptive person. You're very receptive to other people's ideas. Like, you never shut people down. And I think it can really relate to, like I was saying earlier, with like this guarded feeling of like, maybe you have been shut down in the past where you tried to pitch an idea and you just got laughed at. Like, that's so silly. That's like really not going to work. And it really made you kind of scared and like protected yourself and put your guard up. But I think that because of this experience, you're now more willing to be receptive to other people's ideas and really encourage them to grow. We're like, okay, maybe that idea just needs a little bit of workshopping, or maybe I can point you towards someone who is going to be able to help you cultivate this idea and really develop it into something that could be executed in real life. And you're never going to be one to just like say like, you're wrong and I'm right. I think you're really receptive and understanding that where someone's coming from is so very different. Like, their life experience is so different that made them come up with this idea, that to them it is a good idea, right? And even if to you it seems like a bad idea, you have to acknowledge that for them it could be the right idea. And it's just about nurturing people and really trying to help them execute things. And even if that is something that ends up burning them, right? Being able to exercise just like a little bit of discernment of saying like, watch out for these things. But at the same time, like, yourself best. And if this is something you really believe in, like, if your heart wants it, you have to follow it. And especially when it comes to creative projects, like, that is someone's baby. So when you say like, I don't really like that story, or, those characters just don't sound that interesting, like, that is just killing someone's baby. And, it is a baby. You want to nurture it and like, let it come to maturation. And then that's when you can judge it from a critical sense of like, okay, well, the story was a little bit weak. Once it's a published book, right? Don't be, like, shutting people's ideas down right away when they first come to you with this underdeveloped idea where what they're looking for is not necessarily always critique or criticism, but sometimes they're just looking for that little push and encouragement, just to be like, you know what, that's so cool. I really like that you have this unique idea, and I really think you should follow up on it. All right, let's pull another card. Dog. Okay, so I get the sense that you kind of have a sense of loyalty to your peers and to your friends and collaborators, which I think is a really good strength for you, because when you think about your collaborators, these are people who are going to be in your life for your whole career. And even if you move cities, right, a lot of these people are going to be moving cities as well. A lot of these people are going to be looking at your work for your whole career. And you kind of need to have like a little bit of loyalty towards them, and not necessarily of like picking sides or anything, right? It doesn't need to be adversarial. But when I talk about loyalty, I mean just like supporting someone through the years. Maybe like really following their work, right? And especially if it's this reciprocal feeling of like, okay, they're someone who is working in the field and they're supporting your work and looking at your work and encouraging you and just giving some compliments. Maybe if you're at an event where you're showcasing your work, they show up and they're in the crowd, they come up to talk to you and say like, you know, that was a great show, or that was a great reading. And like that is loyalty. That's like a loyal fan, but also like a loyal peer, right? Because you're kind of on the same level. You don't necessarily need to make this a hierarchy of I'm the performer and they're the fan. It's like, no, we're all working together. We're all each other's fans. And I get the sense that by having this kind of loyal sense to other people of like, you know, if someone I know is playing a show, then of course I'm going to go out and see it, and I'm going to be in the crowd, I'm going to be dancing, I'm going to be cheering, I'm going to be giving them my full attention. And I think that this is what really helps develop those lasting connections where, you know, many years down the line, these people are going to remember you and they're going to want to work with you again. Whereas if you really have this selfish sense of like, you know, I'm not part of the pack, I'm a lone wolf, and I don't need anyone's support, right? So many years from now, it's like, who are going to be the people supporting you and lifting you up? You're going to have no one, because you weren't lifting anyone up and supporting them either. All right, let's pull one more card from this deck. Okay, we have Joker. Okay, so I get the sense that I think it's really important to keep kind of a sense of like lightheartedness as you go through this, because, you know, in one sense, right, this is your vocation, this is very important to you. This is, you know, your life in some ways. So of course it's a little bit serious. But at the same time, you have to have fun with it. You have to be playful. And it's this playful spirit that really gets people on your side too, right? Because if you really take your work a little bit too seriously, and like it's good to be serious. Yes, be a serious artist when it comes to your work, but don't be so self-serious all the time, right? When, you know, you do a reading and you've got the most depressing poetry on planet Earth, and you're just taking it so seriously, it's so heavy, and you've brought down the vibe so much. And like, there's nothing wrong with addressing serious topics, but just not even being able to laugh and like not being able to enjoy the moment, right? And like making it feel like everyone has to be morose to enjoy your work. This is not a way to cultivate a fun vibe for the crowd, right? Like the Jester, like the Joker, you are an entertainer, right? It's your job to go up on stage and make people feel entertained, right? Not regretting the fact that they came out to see you, but like, you know what? I am having a good time. And like, being an entertainer, it's like being a good host at a house party, right? You're welcoming people in. You're like, you know, make yourself at home, take off your shoes, like, you know, here's a glass of wine, that sort of thing. That's the energy you have to bring with your work, is like making people feel really comfortable and like they're having fun when they're in the presence of your creative practice. Because if you make it like something where it's like, you have to be so intellectually engaged in my work, if you make a joke about one of my paintings, you're insulting me. Like, this is a kind of dynamic that will not really make people want to come to your show again, right? You kind of just need to have this playful, fun thing of like, you know, we're all kind of like figuring things out. You know, at the end of the day, like, art is kind of this playful activity. And no matter how old we get or how progressed we get in our careers, you know, it's really important not to lose this, right? I think sometimes older artists can kind of lose that sense of playfulness, and especially when they're really trying to impress critics rather than play with their peers in this creative exchange. It's like you're really too focused, again, like on this sort of ego concept of status, whereas the Joker is really reminding you, like, it's just about having fun, you know? even if you're 60 years old and you're a very established painter, it's not that different than when you were in kindergarten playing with crayons. Like, at the end of the day, the goal is self-expression and sharing things with other people and expressing your unique point of view in a way that everyone else can understand. All right, let's pull a few more tarot cards on this topic too. Okay, so we have the Six of Pentacles. So this is a feeling again of like almost like a generosity that you can give to other people, and especially like if you come off like someone who is quite put together and you really are confident in yourself as an artist, and being able to say like, I think my work is pretty good, or not even like say in those terms, but just like, this is my work and I'm proud of it and I want to show it to other people. I think that this is going to make you seem like someone who is quite wealthy in a sense, where like, even if maybe the financial gains are maybe postponed a little, they're not quite there, because of the fact that you have this really strong sense of confidence in yourself, people are going to assume that you're making a lot of money off your work and that you're really financially successful. And in the sense, they're going to come to you for guidance and for your support. And in this way, again, this is about like making these lasting pure connections. Is that if you come off like someone who is like not so down in the dumps, like, oh, I'm such a starving artist, I'm so broke, like you can never make money in the arts, it's such a painful struggle and life is suffering and all that, like no one's gonna want to come to you and want to work with you, because you're just not putting out that energy of like lifting other people up. But when you're confident in your work, people are going to be like, okay, this is an ideal collaborator for me, this is someone who I want involved in my project, because they clearly have this mentality of success. And so even if you're not genuinely like above anyone, like you're all on the same level, you're all balanced, you all have creative potential, you all have the ability to execute these projects. It's really about the attitude that you adopt is going to draw people towards you when it comes to feeling like you're a very competent and confident person. All right, now let's just pull one more card to close out the reading. All right, we've got the King of Pentacles. Okay, this is wonderful because we've already pulled the Queen of Pentacles and now we have the King of Pentacles. So I really get the sense that this is what your final energy is going to be. Like really when you've figured things out for yourself in your work, it's like you have mastered this feeling of control in the material world, of attracting wealth and attracting like not just physical wealth, like yes, physical wealth and stability, but like having a wealth of things around you that really make you feel affirmed in your mission, right? So like if you're someone who's an artist, I get the sense that this is going to be, you have a really nice studio and you have all the paints that you could ever wish for, maybe at this point in your career, you're kind of like nickel and diming, like, okay, I've saved up my tip money, I can buy a new tube of paint. But I get the sense that when you're in this King of Pentacles energy, it's going to be like, the money is not an issue. I can buy whatever color of paint I would like. Or maybe if you're someone who wants to publish books, this is going to be the feeling of like, right now I just have a few manuscripts on my computer, but when I get to this energy, I'm going to have a whole shelf of books that I've published myself, and it's really going to feel good being able to look at my wall and see these achievements and things that I've gained in the material world that were a product of my own confidence in myself to begin with, like my own creative ideas that have now been transformed into something material in the world. All right, well, I hope this reading was somewhat helpful to you. Please let me know if there's anything that really resonated with you or if you had any ideas on the topic. It's really great to exchange ideas and just have conversations about these things. All right, well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.